Center supervisors notify the FAA and other air traffic centers about the hijacking of American Flight 11. The plane makes another dramatic turn south towards New York City. Pete Zalewski anxiously listens on the frequency, thinking the hijackers might try to make contact.
Then comes a third transmission from the aircraft. And that one was pretty horrifying.
Zalewski, concerned he might be missing vital information, asked the supervisor to have someone pull the transmission tapes that are automatically recorded right away.
And thankfully they did pull the tapes, and a part that I didn't hear, which was we have more planes or something to that effect, and that really was a key statement.
I've heard a number of different tapes in the past of aircraft crashes, and this was, in my mind, the worst. I'd never heard something like that.
Was it just cold-blooded? We have a lot of airplanes, and
It made you actually step up and think, what did he mean? What's going on? What's next?
the voice they're most likely hearing is that of Mohammed Atta, who would later come to be known as the mastermind of the terrorist attacks. Controllers believe the hijackers mean to speak to the passengers, mistakenly keying the mic to air traffic control, and Pete Zalewski instead. By now, American 11 had crossed into airspace John Hartling controls.
And Tom come over and told me that this aircraft, we believe, is hijacked.
What did you think when he said the word hijack?
I didn't believe it, because I didn't think that stuff would happen, especially in this country.
The plane is now speeding south at almost 600 miles an hour, far faster than the 450 miles an hour it should have been flying. With no transponder information, controllers were now asking the assistance of another plane heading to the West Coast that morning. It is United Flight 175.
I said, I'd like you to look at the 12 and 1 o'clock, tell me if you see an American 767. And he said, yeah, he's about 29,000.
The United flight that Hartling was speaking to had also taken off from Boston's Logan Airport, only 14 minutes after American 11. In fact, it was also a Boeing 767, fully fueled, bound for Los Angeles. It was carrying 58 passengers and 6 crew. Hartling had no way of knowing that 5 terrorists are also on board this plane, only moments away from making their move.
I said, well, turn 30 degrees to the right. I want to make sure I keep you away from this guy. Because I had no idea where he was going.
So you're still in touch with the pilots in that cockpit?
Yeah.
Now that the second United plane was safely back on course, or so he thought, John Hartling handed it off to the next link in the air traffic chain, the New York area en route center. And you're keeping your eye on
American 11. He's still
now is going at a very high rate of speed.
No, his speed started to drop drastically.
And what did that say to you?
That he was probably descending.
Descending rapidly, headed in the direction of New York.
Number 1680, contact New York Center 134.6.
At the New York en route center in Islip, Long Island, Dave Bottiglia, Kurt Applegate, and Mark DePalma are working a routine shift. No idea what is about to come their way. At 8:41 a.m., United Flight 175 enters Dave Bottiglia's airspace and makes contact.
The first thing he said to me was, we heard threatening transmissions being broadcast by the American.
The pilots of the United flight have monitored a transmission from the hijacked plane repeating to Bottiglia what they overheard in the American cockpit.
And his exact words were, everyone stay in your seats.
The crew of 175 has no way of knowing they are only moments away from also being hijacked. By now, American 11 is crossing out of Boston's airspace and is bearing down on Bottiglia's territory in New York. Within seconds, the plane, or target as controllers call it, appears on his screen.
The controller right next to me gets up and walks over to me and he says, you see this target here? He says, this is American 11. Boston Center thinks it's a hijack.
So what did you think at that point? What was going through your mind?
I really thought they were probably going to Cuba.
So you kept track of the target?
Kept track of the target. And now of course, we know that he was descending at a rapid pace, but we had no altitude or anything on it.
Within minutes, American 11 simply disappears from radar. It is 8:46 a.m.
The only thing I can remember is when the American target disappeared, all I said was, Well, we know he's not high altitude anymore.
But within seconds, Bottiglia has another unexpected problem. As he and other controllers search the radar, looking for American 11, he suddenly notices that United Flight 175, which moments ago helped him locate the hijacked plane, also has disappeared. Instinctively, Bottiglia knows the two are somehow related. He asks another controller to take over all of his other planes.
I think my voice was shaking. Please just take everything and don't ask any questions.
He calls the United plane several times, unsuccessfully, sharing the same anxiety his colleagues in Boston had felt only moments earlier. Kurt Applegate is working at the next radar bank in the New York Center.
I could hear the talking behind me, and I realized we had 2 lost airplanes. That made me very nervous.
I know something bad's happened. Really don't know what. We had no transmissions from United.
When I turned back to look at the radar, there was a target right over Allentown. So I turned and yelled at Dave. I thought that was his American that he was looking for.
But you're in fact looking at United.
I was in fact looking at United, that's correct.
A transponder signal quickly reappears on radar somewhere near the New Jersey-Pennsylvania border. A mistake, perhaps, on the part of the hijackers. The signal continues to transmit information to controllers. There is no longer any question in Bottiglia's mind that he's looking at a second hijacked airliner.
Well, when I saw it, it was at 33,000 feet. And as soon as I said that, he started to turn to the left and descending.
United 175 is no longer headed west, as it should be. Instead, it has now also turned ominously toward the east and New York City. There are now 2 hijacked airliners in the skies over the East Coast. The first, American 11, has already disappeared from radar. Controllers don't know where it is. The second is United 175, now over northern New Jersey suburbs. And in Newark, New Jersey, a third plane and group of controllers will be pulled into the unfolding drama. Dan D'Agostino is a controller at the Newark Tower.
And if you look out that window there, that's still lined up just as we were on September 11th.
The morning shift is running smoothly, other than the usual ground delays at Newark.
We had about 25 to 30 planes at the runway at any given moment.
Greg Callahan is clearing planes to take off and land. Only 5 minutes earlier, at 8:41 a.m., he had cleared a United plane to take off for San Francisco. It had been waiting on the runway, and by the time it took off, it was almost 40 minutes late. At the time, Callahan had no reason to give it a second thought. But the story of what would happen on that airliner, the bravery and heroism of 33 passengers and 7 crew, would become legend. It was United Flight 93. But minutes after Flight 93 takes off, uneventfully, something does grab the attention of Newark controllers, whose view from the top of the tower is a panorama of New York skyline. Working alongside Callahan is Rick Tepper.
I just happened to glance up and saw a mushroom cloud coming off the first tower. We knew it was an explosion type of fire. I said, Greg, look at that.
He was off my left shoulder and he pointed out the window and said, look at the World Trade Center.
He's going, oh my God, look at that. So we were just standing there staring, just in disbelief, watching it burn.
The initial reports, a small private plane appears to have crashed into the tower. Bob Barcatapane was the supervisor in Newark Tower that morning, in charge of 8 controllers. You can see the smoke from
Oh yes, you can see the smoke billowing from the side of the building. And we didn't know what it was. I got on the phone to the air traffic controls facility out in New York on Long Island, and I asked them if they lost any airplanes. And they said no, but Boston Center lost an airplane. They lost an American 767.
Did it occur to you at that point that it could have been that plane that went into the World Trade Center?
Well, that's exactly what I said to myself. I said to the controller that I have a burning building and you have a missing airplane. This is very coincidental.
As Bob Barcatapane trades calls with the New York and Boston centers, a horrific realization dawns on controllers. American Flight 11, still missing from radar, finally has been found. Word of the fate of Flight 11 quickly travels throughout the air traffic control world. Back at the New York Center, all eyes are now trained on United 175 as it races over central New Jersey, clearly headed toward New York.